We saw a very poor performance against Bolton on Saturday. Unacceptable, really. I got the impression that Middlesbrough went out there believing they only had to turn up to win the game. They'd obviously gone 5 games unbeaten before that, looked at Bolton's league position and thought, well, this should be a home win. But really, it doesn't happen that way in the Premier League, and I think they found out after the first 10 minutes that they had a real battle on their hands. By that time, they were 2 goals down and, in effect, had lost the game after only 10 minutes. It was a miserable start, poor defending. They did quite a few things wrong, giving away free kicks in wrong position, not defending the lines properly, and the end result that the points really were almost handed to Bolton on a plate. The one team you don't want to be 2-0 down to after 10 minutes is Bolton. It was manna from heaven from them. All they did was carry on what they were doing, maybe tightened up a bit more, didn't break so often, and just sat back on it and said, right, Middlesbrough, let's see what you can do. It meant that Middlesbrough had a lot of the ball. We did do a lot of attacking, pushing forward down both flanks and whatever, but getting the ball in the middle and not being able to do anything in the air was the initial problem. I thought that Stuart Downing got in a few crosses. Adam Johnson got in a lot of crosses in the second half. Got half the Bolton team booked at the same time. They all seemed to be bringing him down in rotation. But there was nobody really to get on the end of the ball in the air, and in that respect, Mido's absence was missed. I thought if he had been available, he could have come on as an impact sub and made a difference in the last 20 minutes, because I don't think Bolton were any great shakes. They took advantage of 2 gift goals and got on with it, really. Probably the biggest disappointment of all was after all the hard work to try and get back in the game through Manuel Pogatet's goal, Middlesbrough then proceeded to shoot themselves in the foot within a minute when they conceded the 3rd goal. Bolton, in fact, made it so easy to score that goal. I think Boro thought, right, we've done it now, we're almost there, and lost concentration. And when you lose concentration in the Premier League, you get done. So I think overall, there are a lot of questions to be asked on the training ground at Middlesbrough this week. A lot for Gareth Southgate to think about. I don't think really personnel-wise he can make much in the way of difference, but he has to tell his players that, treat everybody with the same respect in the Premier League. Set off on the right footing. Don't allow yourself to be 99.5% prepared at the start of every game. Go out there. Try and put the opposition on the back foot from the start, get on with it. And one thing we do have to do dramatically is improve home results at the Riverside, because they ain't good enough. Despite the fact we had a lot of pressure against Bolton, one thing that was missing were chances. There weren't that many. A bit of a disappointment for Afonso Alves, really. I don't think he played very well. In fact, he hasn't played very well for a while now. One thing he does need is a few chances to try and put the ball in the net. We witnessed that appalling miss at Aston Villa, which really, quite clearly, has dented his confidence somewhat, and he's gone backwards. I get the impression he's frightened to shoot at the moment, and that's not a good thing for a £12.7 million record signing. You don't want that from your side. It took to Gareth Southgate and his coaches to work very closely with Alves on the training ground this week and try and restore a bit of that confidence. You look at his goal-scoring record, he's got a good goal-scoring record, therefore he's a player who can score goals. He hasn't been doing it very much in the Premier League. In fact, I think he's still trying to come to terms with it. But having said that, Boro do need to put an arm around his shoulders, try and point him in the right direction, and in addition to that, they need to get players putting the ball in the right area for him, probably not in the air. He did have one header actually against Bolton, which wasn't too far away. It was his best effort and probably his only effort. Those 2 free kicks that he had were quite dismal. I thought after the first one he'd probably get closer to the goal with the second one, but in fact he put it higher in the north stand than the first one. Wasn't good to watch, and again an indication he hasn't got the confidence. With Tunjai, I thought, playing a bit deep against Bolton, it did leave Alves even doubly exposed, and the last thing you want is Alves to be exposed up against big defenders like Bolton have got. It wasn't the right way to go about it. We did need Tunjai further upfield and probably needed more support from the midfield men, although they did have a battle of their own. I thought Didier Degas, another learning curve game for him. He'd probably come on as a result of that. He probably won't have played in a game like that so far in the Premier League, and it'll do him a bit of good. One or two players do need to improve a little bit. I thought defensively we were very, very poor. The two full-backs struggled at times, and maybe on the right flank, Hoyt didn't get enough support from Jeremy Aliadia as he might have done. Aliadia just coming back from illness, so probably a bit of excuse there, although he was eventually taken off. I thought Adam Johnson, when he came on, was bright and bubbly, and he's bound to be knocking on the door now. He's done well in England under 21 level. He has done well as an impact sub, but doesn't always do so well when he starts games, but he can do no more than do what's expected of him when he does come on the bench, but he has every right to feel that he's knocking on the door. The task now is to get everybody primed and looking in the right direction for Saturday. The last thing we want to do is another home humiliation at the hands of Newcastle. They've won 6 of their last 12 visits to the Riverside, and that's an awful record for Boro to contemplate. They've only won 2 of those 12, the last 12 games, and really it's not good enough. It has to be improved. There was a time when Boro used to have a great record at home to Newcastle. In fact, there was a 28-year spell leading up to the early 90s when Newcastle couldn't win here. Great times for Boro, and something we want to see, really, Boro getting back on track and repeating that sort of thing. It's going to be a tough match against Newcastle. They got a great point at Chelsea, and they've been lifted significantly recently by Joe Kinnear. Another reason for trying to prove a point and showing that the North East top dogs are here on Teesside. Going to be a toughie, but a lot will depend on how Southgate can get his troops working, thinking, concentrating in the right direction this week.